welcome to Gym and Kitchen. I'm your host, Shona. Gym and Kitchen's focus is on creating a healthy lifestyle, and I'm passionate about educating and coaching real people with busy lives on all things health and wellness related, including the habits and beliefs that govern our food and fitness choices. And that's what this show is all about. You can find Gym and Kitchen on the web, Facebook and Instagram at gymandkitchen.biz. Gym and Kitchen is produced bi-weekly and airs every second Thursday on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Now, let's get into this episode's topic, which is, what do you do with resistance bands? Okay, how many of you, during COVID, managed to snag a set of resistance bands from Amazon that didn't require refinancing your house or selling your firstborn? And now you have that set of bands collecting dust because you never really figured out what you could do with them, but you never got around to selling them because you were thinking, I'll use those one day. You are in the right place. That's what we're going to go over today. There are a few different types of bands that you may have seen out there, and I'm going to talk about just 3 of the most common ones and a few things that you can do with them depending on the space you have. So first we have something called a mini band, and it usually looks like this. This is the Perform Better brand. I particularly like this brand because I find that they're the best. They're not too long, they're not too short, and they have different types of resistances. So we'll come back to mini bands in a moment. Then you have something called stretch bands or stretch tubing. It's usually one long length, often with handles. Sometimes the handles are removable and they stretch just like that, and they also come in different resistances. And then there's the ones that are often referred to as strength bands, which is one big continuous loop. It's a closed loop and they stretch just like that. So it's a big full circle resistance band, and they also come in different resistances. Now, these can all be used differently. Let's start with mini bands. My favorite use for these is either during a warm-up or to prep and activate the muscles that you plan to use. For example, if you're going to be doing squats or deadlifts, you can loop a mini band around your legs just above the knees, get into a quarter squat, and move laterally for about 10 steps in each direction, like this. If you don't have enough space in your gym the way I don't, you can just move back and forth until you've got a total of 10. If your butt isn't burning by the end, the band isn't heavy enough. Get a heavier one, or you can add another one around your ankles in a similar fashion so that it looks like this. Remember to stay in that quarter squat. It's really important when you're moving laterally so that you work the right butt muscles. Second, stretch tubes or cords. These are really the most common. They're often sold in a set of anywhere from 3 to 5 depending. Sometimes they come with a door attachment or detachable handles. There are lots of different ways they can be used. Often I will use these with a client in place of a cable machine, as most people exercising at home don't have the space or budget for a cable pulley machine like the ones you often see in gyms. Now, you can do a lot with these. You can loop the cable behind something sturdy like a support post or a stairway railing. I have a nice support post in my gym here, so I'm just going to loop one around here like this. And you can do two-handed pulls. So it looks just like this. Or you can turn around and do a standing press. That looks like this. Either straight arm out from the sides, or you can come up into more of a bench press position and come forward. If you need more resistance and you happen to have a second band, you can double them up like this and do the same kinds of things. After all, these exercises still need to feel like work. And if you're able to do 10, 15, 20 repetitions easily, then the resistance is too light. When doing pulls, I would caution against doing them seated like this and hooking them over your feet like this. I know that's a very popular way of doing it. However, I have known too many people who have had the band, as they're pulled back like this, slip off their feet and come and hit them in the face or the chest. I would also be very, very cautious of using the door attachment. It usually looks like this, so a little knob on one end. Be very, very careful of using that door attachment For the same reasons, if you must use the door attachment, please make sure that you are pulling with the away of the door, so that if you're pulling the door, it's like it's pulling it shut, not pulling it open. Otherwise, it may also let go and hit you in the face. You can always do a little search on fitness band mishaps, and there's far too much on the internet out there that shows you what can happen if you don't use a band properly. Squats and push-ups can also be done with bands. So if you do a squat, you can do it like this. You stand over top of the band. Make sure the feet are in good squat position. Bring your arms up so that they are in a bit of a catch position next to your shoulders. Just hold them there. It's pretty easy and you shouldn't feel too much resistance in your arms. And then you're going to squat accordingly. If you're going to do a push-up, you have to have a band that's going to be short enough to actually get some stretch when you're in the full extension of the push-up. You can always just hold it underneath your hands and get yourself into the push-up position. The band goes over your back and push up accordingly. Make sure that you have enough resistance. I definitely didn't there. Make sure that you don't have too much resistance if you're going to do a push-up for this. You can also do a supine floor squat, which is very similar to a bench press, only you're lying on the floor on your back with the band behind your shoulders, and you're going to push up just like it's a bench press, and it looks like this. Lighter stretch tubing or thin stretch bands that are a single strip, similar to this, are often used for things like back flies. So that looks like this. Arms out in front. Make sure that they're straight out and that there's not too much play in it. Keep the shoulders down nice and tight, flex everything, and you're just going to pull back like this. Bring the shoulder blades together. These are harder than they look. If you're doing these and you've never done them before, start light. And finally, strength bands, which are large and a complete loop. While these can be used in a similar manner to the tubes, because they are a complete loop, they lend themselves better to some things than others. I personally prefer them for lower body work, especially deadlifts and something called a kneeling hip hinge, which I'll show you in a minute. So if you're going to do a deadlift with these, this is what it looks like. You're going to loop the band underneath your feet. You're going to have to choke up a little bit on the band, and you're probably going to have to keep your elbows bent for part of this, just so you get enough resistance in the lowering phase. Then you're going to move into your deadlift, either bent knee or straight leg, and lift accordingly. A kneeling hip hinge is another way to use one of these bands. For the kneeling hinge, you want to make sure that you have a nice sturdy post, something like the support post I have here. You're going to take the band and loop it around so that it's nice and tight, and then inside this loop, that's where you go. Put it right around your hips, get some tension on it. Make sure that when you're in the down position like this, you're going to scoot forward until you still have some tension on that band, because you want that tension to increase as you raise up. Right? Then you're just going to flex everything, squeeze your butt, and come up. And that's your kneeling hinge. You can also use the strength bands for a squat or a push-up in a very similar manner that you would if you were using a strength tube that has handles on the end. This is by no means an exhaustive list of all the things you can do with resistance bands, but it is a good starting point. If you're looking at that pile of bands that you got for a good price off of Amazon, or maybe a friend, or maybe off of Marketplace or Kijiji or Craigslist or whatever is used these days, and just never really figured out how to use. Now it's your turn. Grab some resistance bands and try out the following: 5 standing rows, 5 standing pushes, 5 kneeling hinges. Rest for 1 minute and repeat for 3 to 5 times through the whole thing, and see how you feel at the end. Hey, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Plus, remember to connect with Gym and Kitchen on the web, Instagram, and Facebook at gymandkitchen.biz. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about something in your nutrition that you're probably not getting enough of, even though you think you are. Until then, have an amazing couple of weeks, and I will see you in the next episode.